Today, I want to share with you something that genuinely changed my life forever, and I have no doubts that without it, I would be in a completely different position right now. So, whether you're going through something right now that is extremely hard, or you're going through hard times, I believe that this video is going to be extremely valuable to you. The best thing that you can do to improve the situation that you're in right now is to take full responsibility for whatever happens to you, good or bad. Because what it does to you is you're acknowledging that you have control over your own life. You have control over the outcome. You have control on whatever you're gonna fail or win. So when you take full responsibility for your failures, you start to analyze. You start to think, okay, I failed because of me. I did something wrong, and because of that, I failed. And now you start to think, okay, what were my mistakes? What could I have done better? And now you start to work on those things because you don't want to fail again. You know that you failed because of yourself, and if you continue to do the same mistakes, you're going to fail again. So now you're going to start to take action. You're going to start to take action because you know you have power over your own life. You have power over the outcome that is going to happen to you. Now, if you don't take responsibility for your own life, if you say that, okay, I failed because of some external factor, because the stars weren't aligned properly, because I don't know, because of something that happened to me 2 years ago, because of trauma, or because I was sad, or because this person did this. When you say that you failed because of something external, you're not gonna self-analyze. You're gonna say, look, I failed not because of me, I failed because of something else. And why should I do the work? Why should I do the work to improve if I didn't fail because of me? That is exactly what happens to you when you don't take full responsibility over your own failures. And that is a problem. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say 20% of the reason why you failed was because of something external. And then 80% of the reason why you failed was because of yourself, because you did some mistakes. What most people do, and what probably you do, is you focus on the 20% that was something external. You say to yourself, oh, well, this external thing happened, and that's why I failed. But what you don't realize is perhaps that 20% external factors contributed to you failing. However, 80% of the reason why you failed was because of yourself. But because you don't take full responsibility for your failures, you're going to focus on the 20% that was something external. And because of that, you're not going to improve. You're not going to self analyze and be like, oh, those were my mistakes. I should do better. And I'm not going to make those same mistakes later on. But no, if you focus always on excuses and blaming on other people, on other factors, you're never going to start to improve on the mistakes that you're making right now. And you're not perfect. You're making mistakes. Trust me, you're making mistakes. I make mistakes. But the difference is when I fail, I don't focus on the external factors why I failed. I don't focus on the things that I have no control on. I focus on the things that I had control on, and I'm like, I could have done this better. I did it good. I could have done this better, and maybe I would have won because of that. I want to take this to the extreme. Let's say that the reason why you failed was 100% because of something external that happened to you. Let's say that you failed because of something that you had no control on. In that case, you should still take responsibility for your failure. And now you're going to think, well, it doesn't make sense. I failed because of something external. I had no control over it, and it was 100% because of something I had no control on. And I failed because of that. So I shouldn't take full responsibility for this. Wrong. You should always take full responsibility, even though it is not your fault. The reason for that is because if you take full responsibility, You're going to search for mistakes. You're going to search for something that you could have done better. And once you find it, you're going to start taking action and you're going to improve. Because if you think that you're perfect and that you did everything right and that the reason why you failed was entirely because of some external factor, then you're not gonna look for your mistakes. You're not gonna look in areas where you can improve. And again, as I said, even if even if you failed because of something you had no control on, the fact that you take full responsibility and say that, okay, let's see where I can improve, and you start to take action on it, you're just gonna become a better human being in whatever you're doing. But that's the hard thing to do, right? Of course it is. Because you would prefer to simply say, well, look, I have all this proof that it wasn't my fault, that it was because of this person, it was because of this factor, it was because I was sad, it was all because of those things, and that's why I failed. And you know what? I couldn't have done anything better. You know what? Just I'm gonna chill and do nothing. I'm not gonna try to self analyze. I'm not gonna try to improve in certain things that I could improve. No, I'm just gonna say, oh, it was because of something external. And that's what most people do. And that's why they fail. That's why they never succeed at anything. Or they hit a plateau and they cannot go further because they don't do this self analyzation of like, okay, I could have done this better. Oh, I shouldn't have done this mistake. No, they prefer saying, look, I did my best and that's it. And I know that this could be hard to understand at first, but let me just give you a basic example of what I mean by taking full responsibility, even though it is not your fault. Let's say you're driving. You're driving your car, and then you stop at a red light, and then you're just waiting. And then some idiot, because he was on his phone, he just hits you from behind. So you understand that in this situation, the driver was at fault. He was on his phone, he's an idiot, you were standing at the red light waiting and he hits you from behind. It's 100% his fault. I agree with you. It is 100% his fault. However, let's see what happens when you take full responsibility and when you don't. So, if you take full responsibility, you would say to yourself, okay, this idiot was on his phone and he hit me from behind. It's 100% his fault. However, if I was paying more attention, if I was looking in my mirrors, I would have seen him coming without stopping. And perhaps I would have honked to grab his attention, or I would have had the time to swerve to the left and make sure he doesn't hit me from behind. That's what it looks like when you take full responsibility, even though it is not your fault. Because in this case, yes, it's his fault for hitting you from behind, but you could have prevented it. You could have been more attentive. You could have looked in your mirrors and prevented this whole situation. You could have become a better driver by self analyzing and taking full responsibility for whatever happens to you. However, let's say you don't take full responsibility. You say to yourself, look, it was 100% his fault. He was on his phone. He's an idiot. He hit me from behind. And 100% his fault. I did nothing wrong. I was just standing and waiting at the red light. And it is not my fault. That's it. Are you really going to become a better driver? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You're not going to tell yourself, well, I could have prevented it if I looked at the mirrors. I could have seen him coming. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to say, oh, it was his fault. That's it. And it's just going to stop there. You're not going to improve. You're not going to take action. You're not going to self analyze. And you're never going to improve your driving skills. So you see, with this basic example, you understand what it means to take full responsibility, even though it is not actually your fault. Because when you take full responsibility, no matter the situation, you will always start to find your mistakes. You will always start to self analyze, and you will always find things you can improve on. And once you do take action to improve on those things, you will become better in anything you do. But this is hard to do. Most people don't want to do that. Most people are comfortable in just putting all the blame on others. And the thing is, that's why they will always fail. They will always fail. They're never going to improve on anything. They will hit a plateau and that's it. Because they will never self analyze. Never.